Greetings, everyone. It's great to be with you again and learning with you. Our teleconference today is entitled Mystical Statuary of the World 3, the Nightly Effigy of the Black Prince. Now, the human face and the hand gestures and human form can be keys to draw forth and realize the presence of the divine within, the master within. We will see how this urge for illumination has expressed itself through sculpture for the great enrichment of us all and in the remembrance of our true nature. We will focus on the medieval masterwork of the tomb effigy of the Black Prince in Canterbury Cathedral. As part of this, we'll deal a lot with mysticism and knighthood. First, though, we'll prepare for meditation, which will involve knighthood and ascending to the heights of the celestial sanctum, as we commonly do. But I'll get up an image to do with knighthood to share with you. You'll see before you now a depiction of the Maid d'Orléans, Jeanne d'Arc, or Joan of Arc. This is a depiction from a film from 2019. I'll give you a reference to it in the resources at the end if you're inclined. But we see here the young, inspired Joan of Arc leading France to her great upliftment. She faced a great deal of greed and a great deal of misunderstanding. And while her outer form was quite young, inwardly she was quite wise and mature and a great inspiration in the history of knighthood ever after. This is important for us as students of mysticism and the Rosicrucian order because, for example, the Rosicrucian order Amorc is an order of knighthood. And I'll say more about that a little later on as well, that one is called to be a knight of the Rose Cross. Now, as we prepare for our meditation, I invite you to look closely into the eyes of this knight. In a way, this presentation will have an historical basis or historical level, but it'll also have a moral or tropological level about developing the virtues of the knight. It'll also have an anagogical or mystical level, that is the deepest experience of our divine nature. All these will be at work, including now. To prepare ourselves for our meditation and to begin it, I suggest you make sure that you're seated in a comfortable way, or if you need to lie down, that's okay too. But it's good to have a bodily position that you can breathe in an unencumbered way. And the work of the spinal nervous system and autonomic nervous system can work in an unhindered way. If you're seated, you may have your palms in your laps, facing down, knees at right angle, feet flat on the floor, about 8 inches apart, spine upright. And take what Rosicrucians refer to as deep neutral breaths as we look into the eyes of the night, neither holding the inhalation nor holding the exhalation. Each of us is called to knighthood. It's one of the divine archetypes to be a fully mature human being, to be one with the one, to be conversant and fully identify with the divine within. It requires courage and a great application of the law of service. Just continue to enjoy the gentle rhythms of the breath as we go deeper into the experience of knighthood and what it means to each of us personally, and what the master within can declare and show us about it. With each inhalation, we can sense the growing presence of the divine within. With each exhalation, we can feel the vagus nerve stimulated, especially if we extend the exhalation. And the vagus nerve will lead to the relaxation response, which will spiritualize as calmness and serenity. And that calmness allows us to concentrate better and gather together all our faculties and be more fully who we are. Now, to continue our meditation, I invite you to enter the kingdom of heaven. Let us close our eyes, prepare for the ascent to the heights of the celestial sanctum. Described in the booklet Liber 777. Let us let go of the cares of the day. We'll come back from our ascent to the heights of the celestial sanctum, recharged, all the more capable to fulfill our duties and mission in life. Allow us to have permission for this mini retreat, for our healing and our strengthening and our soothing and our enlightenment. Now I invite you to use all of your imagination and inner psychic faculties to picture yourself rising up over the home where you dwell, the building where you are. Start to feel the exhilaration of the ascent as we go up faster and faster, looking down on the home in your neighborhood, in your city or geographic area, rising up even faster and see the weather systems below, the landforms in your province or state. See the great system and order of it all. Rise up higher again. Take in the entire country or great nation where you dwell. And continue to rise up higher and higher towards our celestial sanctum. See the continent where you dwell, and even the hemisphere. And now the great oblate spheroid or sphere-like object, the beautiful blue jewel of the earth, the temple of the earth. See its wondrous colors and it's rotating about its axis. As we look up and see the other planets of the solar system, the huge planet of Jupiter, the beautiful rings of Saturn, smaller planets such as Venus and Mars and Mercury, and our star, the great fiery ball of the sun. See how the Earth is revolving about the sun as all the other planets in their beautiful elliptical orbits. And then let's look up beyond our solar system and see all the stellar phenomena, the quasars and the pulsars and the black holes balancing the universe, and the asteroids and the rogue planets, the comets. Continue to look up and take in the great beauty of the galaxy. Continue to rise up higher and higher. Sense now the structure of the entire galaxy that is our home, the Milky Way galaxy. See the myriad stars and nebulae and exit right out from the Milky Way galaxy. And look back at it and see its great spiraling structure. And look up from our galaxy and see other galaxies and myriad stars. The great beauty of it all. The wondrous motions and actions. Sense what the Rosicrucians refer to as the great sea of vibrations, the cosmic keyboard. Sense things not only in the physical senses, but also through our psychic senses. including the harmony of the spheres, the wondrous music of the cosmos through its expression and vibrations. Can you rise up higher and higher and see many, many galaxies? Some spiraling, some in other shapes. Can you rise up faster and faster, way beyond the speed of light? See clusters of galaxies and even superclusters of galaxies. And start to sense how they're all revolving about a great cosmic axis spoken of since ancient times. Enjoy the great beauty of it all. Feel by the law of correspondence, as above, so below, as we rise up into the cosmos. At the same time, we go deeper and deeper within ourselves, the microcosm. Sense even more the presence of the divine within. Continue to rise up higher and higher. See the great cosmic axis about which the cosmos is revolving. And sense increasingly what Rosicrucians refer to as the cosmic, which is everywhere. It's all the natural and spiritual laws. It's also the universal intelligence back of the cosmos. As you come closer and closer to the cosmic axis, slow up at its midpoint. When you've reached there, take a look around and sense through all your senses, physical and psychic, to take in the wonder and awe of the great center of the cosmos, the center of our being. Now picture there your celestial sanctum. Feel in the sights and sounds of the celestial sanctum. You may wish to picture your celestial sanctum, your personal sacred place for cosmic attunement. As a Hindu temple, or a Sikh gurdwara, or a Jewish synagogue, a Muslim's mosque, or a Christian cathedral or church, or a Rosicrucian temple, such as the Grand Lodge's temple at Rosicrucian Park in San Jose, California. Or maybe some sacred place in nature, a sacred grove of trees, a beautiful meadow, by the lakeshore or a seashore, or high up in a hill or mountain. See the expansive view over the lake or the sea, or from the hill or the mountain, suggesting the cosmic sense, the more expansive view. Feel in all the sights and sounds and various impressions, both inward and outward through the psychic senses as well. You may wish to picture incense rising, just as we rose up into the cosmic. Or stained glass windows, or works depicting Rosicrucian laws and principles, or mystical laws and principles. And other seekers on this conference call, officers of our order, the Grand Master, and also the Imperators conducting a convocation, a sacred ritual. Invisible masters. Feel in the sights and sounds and feel an exhilaration to be at this special sacred place, just as we felt exhilarated in rising up to it. When you've completed your visualization of your personal celestial sanctum, just surrender, let go. Let the divine within come forward all the more in this special sacred place, at the center of the cosmos, at the center of our being. If you find your mind wandering, just lovingly and gently bring it back to the gentle rhythm of your breath. The deep, still center at the heights of the celestial sanctum. Just continue to surrender. Let the presence of the divine within our true nature come all the more forward. So we increasingly identify with it in our lives. Now, as we continue our meditation period, let us perform another spiritual operation of the work and worship of the Rosicrucian Order Amorc. Let us have a period of metaphysical aid, where as a silent council, we can work with the Council of Solace, the Rosicrucian Order Amorc, to radiate love and well-being to all those who have petitioned the Grand Lodge, the Rosicrucian Order Amorc, all those who have petitioned our affiliate bodies, and all those who you know who are in need, and all sentient beings throughout the cosmos who are in need of healing and guidance. Let us radiate love and well-being from the depths of our being to them. Just let it flow out from us. Our outer nature acting as a channel for the inner self, the divine within, to radiate love and well-being like a great floodlight or a great interior sun, radiating love and well-being to all in need this time. Just let it flow out from you. Just continue to let the love and well-being flow from you. At a certain point, I think you'll find that you need to make no conscious effort, and it may even speed up, and you know that it's being received by those in need. Enlivening the healing forces of nature within them. We do this as an act of service in the spirit of knighthood. For the key note of knighthood is unconditional caring, known through the mystical experience of God, tuning with the cosmic as we are now. Soon we'll formally conclude this period of sending metaphysical aid, but we'll continue our meditation. Be assured that the love and well-being will continue to flow deep within us from the divine within as an act of service and as a way of life and as part of our mission fulfilled. To formally conclude this period of metaphysical aid, we can say, if it pleases the cosmic, it is done. So mote it be. Now let us continue to meditate the heights of the celestial sanctum. This increasingly experiences the cosmic experiences. Let's increasingly sense our mind merging with the cosmic mind throughout the cosmos, becoming cosmic mind, assuming the cosmic mind now. Now soon we'll formally conclude our period of meditation, friars and sorors and participants. All the more aware and appreciative of the Master Yeshua, Master Jesus' statement that the kingdom of heaven is within. Experiencing the cosmic, the cosmos, and within us. Now we wish to have a prayer of gratitude on our lips for all those who have taught us well, for all those who have sacrificed for us, and for all who have loved us. Let us begin our descent from the heights of the celestial sanctum. Speeding up past, way beyond the speed of light, the superclusters of galaxies, the clusters of galaxies, the myriad galaxies and nebulae, stellar phenomena, pulsars and the quasars. So we zoom past galaxies and stars, still sensing the great revolving of the universe about its axis, enjoying the exhilaration of the movement and the great harmony of the spheres, the divine music in the temple of the cosmos. We can see in the distance the Milky Way galaxy, its great spiraling arms, our home. As we enter in the great arm where we dwell. And once inside the Milky Way galaxy, we continue past many stars and nebulae, comets and asteroids, and see way in the distance our star, the sun, the solar system. See in the distance the beautiful blue jewel of the earth. See how it's revolving about its axis. You see the hemisphere where we left off, the continent, the great nation or state, our province or state. City or geographic area we left off, and we could say together, following prayer and invocation. May the God of my heart sanctify this attunement of self with the celestial sanctum, so mote it be. Let us continue down our neighborhood, house or home or dwelling, building where we left off, back in the room where we left off. Now we're situated, seated or lying down, feeling rejuvenated, reborn, soothed and invigorated, all the more ready for the work and worship of the Rosicrucian order and work this day and our presentation. And when you're ready, you may wish to open your eyes again. Now we'll continue our presentation on the mystical statuary of the world 3, the nightly effigy of the Black Prince. But to introduce that wondrous work of art, I want to speak to you a little bit more about the importance of mysticism and knighthood to us. In a way, one can view the knight as a divine archetype, just like the sovereign or ruler, healer, and related divine archetypes that we gain and learn from as we increasingly mature and gain in self-mastery. Below the depiction of Joan of Arc, we see to the left the figure, the painting, Florence Nightingale. You know, she carries the lamp in her great work of healing and health reform. In the upper right corner beside her head is the Royal Red Cross introduced by the sovereign, Queen Victoria, to recognize those nurses for their great work on the behalf of humanity. And then Queen Victoria did this in the spirit of knighthood, this recognition. In the middle lower area, we see the Knights of the Garter holding a canopy during the coronation of the Knight Elizabeth I. She is about to be anointed with the canopy of the Knights of the Garter over her. She herself is a Knight of the Garter. And to the right, we see past Imperator, the Rosicrucian Order Amorc, Christian Bernard, and the conductor, Frederick Dennis Kwiatkowski, helping with the knighting of past Grand Master Christy Knudsen. Notice the sword that the Imperator is holding directs the charge and the spiritual current from one initiator to the initiate. These are all important depictions of knighthood. In a way, they're all depictions of ourselves as we grow and mature, and inspiring conception of knighthood in our own lives and how we're applying service. Here we see another Knight of the Garter, in addition to Elizabeth II. We see Edward III. He's actually the father of Edward the Black Prince. We see the figure of the sovereign depicted in archetypal terms as the wise leader, compassionate, comparing figure, thinking of the welfare of his peoples, the welfare of all. You may have seen his tomb in effigy in the great temple of Westminster Abbey in London. You'll see on the left here the depiction of the tomb that you may have passed by in earlier times, including today. This is a site of pilgrimage. Here we see in Canterbury Cathedral another royal effigy and tomb, that of Edward the Black Prince, son of Edward III. You'll see above the tomb a sculpted figure that we will concentrate on. Above it is the canopy and a tester that we'll make references to. And we see the the wonderful marble columns, capitals here. They're part of the east end of Canterbury Cathedral, and the wonderful lessons and depictions associated with the sacred text of the Bible in the stained glass window here. To give a little more of a sense of this tomb and how it would work in a ritualistic and form, you'll see before you a plan of the eastern half of the great temple of Canterbury Cathedral. You'll notice that there's the solid dots. Those are the paths of the monks who would take as part of their work and worship in this great temple. But you also see lines that look like little arrows. In this cathedral, it was, of course, a major pilgrimage site for the Thomas Becket, the Archbishop and martyr. And you'll see there's a star here, a star here, and here there's a star for, you would go down into the lower level where the crypt is. First, pilgrims would come into the church here, make their way to the crypt and go down below to pay their respects and prayers to the saint, an exemplary figure, the Archbishop and martyr Thomas Becket. But then when they circulate around and come back up, you can't see underneath there, but when they came back up, which was here, they then make their way on the upper level of the church to the shrine of Thomas Becket. But in doing that, they would pass by the shrine of the Black Prince, who was a revered figure. It was the heir apparent for Edward III. The Black Prince passed through transition before he would become king. His son, though, would become Richard II. Edward the Black Prince lived from 1330 to 1376. The tomb that we're describing was built in the 1380s based on his detailed descriptions of how it would be looked and what epitaph should appear on it. So the pilgrims would process by the tomb of the legendary Black Prince, which I'll say more about, by the shrine of Thomas the Becket, make their way out of the cathedral. An important source of the sacredness and even revenues on a material plane for its maintenance of this great temple, Canterbury Cathedral, was through it being a great site of pilgrimage and alms that pilgrims would give. Okay. Continuing on this, here's another view of the tomb and sculptural effigy of the Black Prince. You'll see above, he's in a prayerful attitude. Below is his crest. There's the crest with the leopard or lion. They were often used interchangeably, and the fleur-de-lis of France. The leopard or lion associated with the royal English. The French with the royalty of France, which the English had some control of. And I'll say some more about the rather remarkable emblem with the ostrich feathers later on in the presentation. There's also a great epitaph of that was specified by the Black Prince that's in a way takes the form of a poem. It talks about this worldly life and our outer mortal frame and how it's fleeting, and suggestive of how we have to look beyond the physical into the invisible, from the finite plane to the infinite plane, as we'd say as Rosicrucians, to know our true nature. I'll say some more about that shortly as well. Here now we see from above a depiction of the wondrous sculptural form. It uses the lost wax method. It is predominantly made of copper, but it also has zinc, lead, tin, antimony, nickel, iron, arsenic, and silver in it. It's very similar to a brass or a bronze structure. The Black Prince, Edward, he gave detailed instructions on how it was to look. You notice he has his hands held in the prayerful attitude. As a royal figure, there'd be an identification with the Christ and representative of Christ. He was being led toward being a king, just as his father would be. And part of the coronation ceremony, as we saw earlier for Elizabeth II, was that you would be a representative of the Christ on earth. Mystically, that'd be interpreted, you'd be a representative of the Christ consciousness, the cosmic consciousness, thinking of the welfare of all, including one's subjects. Here we see a close-up on his upper body. You'll see the chainmail of the knight, the one beautiful mustache. He looks forward to us in a way, looks right through us in the deeper inner spiritual vision. He has his helmet, the coronet associated with knighthood. There's this helm and also the figure of the lion associated with royalty. The touching of the fingers is very important. We know that as a prayerful attitude and connecting the flow of the life force through the body. You notice in a similar manner, the hands off sometimes are held together in this depiction of St. Paul by the traditional Rosicrucian Nicomendus Gomez, a work entitled The Inexhaustible Riches of the Christ, for a sense of the cosmic consciousness. We notice the light coming down on St. Paul, just as suggested in the Black Prince's ennobled look towards us. Now, the Black Prince lived, and we know a lot of historical detail about him. But one of the things that isn't well established is just why was he referred to as the Black Prince? He was, as common tradition as an heir apparent, he was the Prince of Wales, and he had various other titles. One of the things that may have been referred to as the Black Prince is that having black armor. Another possibility could have been the forceful activity that he conducted in France. He was referred to as black and being the Black Prince for that reason. We know that he was one of the outstanding commanders of the 100 Years' War and winning major victory at the Battle of Poitiers in 1536. But the Black Prince designation wasn't used until Richard Grafton's Chronicle of England in 1568. I remember once too going to a history of medicine seminar that was conducted in the Faculty of Health Science at McMaster University in the earlier years I worked there. And a person even argued that it was to do with a health condition that the Black Prince had, that he got that name. There's various ideas there. The idea is this black armor may be an important part of it. Also, you'll notice the crest I showed earlier, I'll talk about later too. It has a black background with ostrich feathers. That may well be part of it as well, or it. Now, the Black Prince was also a member of the Order of the Garter. And that Order of the Garter was, as I mentioned earlier, created and instituted by his father, Edward III. And it seems likely within mind that there was the great inspiration of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. And there was an emulation of that earlier story and legend to spiritualize knighthood. And that was likely part of the idea of forming the Knights of the Garter, which continues today. They met around a round table because there was meet as equals. The round form also suggests a microcosm of the macrocosm, the great structure in the round of the cosmos that we work in as servants of the divine within. Now, it's said that during the first campaign that the Black Prince led soldiers and knights in when he was only 16 years of age. It was in France, in the Battle of Crécy. And the situation was very tense. And he sent word to his father if he could send reinforcements, because his father was also in another part of the battlefield. It is said that his father said, "Send no reinforcements to my son. Let him earn his spurs." So in a way, this was a tough love of the father, according to this story and this legend. And out of that, he became recognized as worthy to be one of the Knights of the Garter. I want to tell you some more about this remarkable work of sculpture. It's actually made in several different parts. Recently, there's been a technical examination that was conducted in 2017 and 2018, and I'll give you a reference on it. Scientists and technicians with art historians work with X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy and endoscopy to do a very detailed study of the different metals and structure, and they were able to work out that it was actually multiple pieces. It was as I mentioned earlier, lost wax casting of a very high quality to do that. You notice at the feet of the Black Prince, there is a crouching leopard. You'll see the symbol of the lion associated with the nobility, not only of the royalty, but also the nobility of character that we're drawn to. Also courage, so important to our lives as mystics and being knights on the path. The fleur-de-lis, and also here a lion. Often leopards and lions were used interchangeably among the English and European royalty. As I mentioned earlier, the coronet associated with his royal bearing. Interestingly, though, that over the tomb was hung for many years. The original toupon that was been actually kept was originally hung there, and this is a more recently made replica of it. The original is actually in the Canterbury Cathedral archival storage, and this was made on it. This is actually part of the basis for the making of the stone sculpture. I'll give you a close-up more on it here. This took hundreds of hours, and there was actually a documentary-like program called A Stitch in Time, I think some of you are familiar with, made by the BBC, that actually showed the work that was being done in this. This was actually a work of armor. This is the wool, and it actually has strong stuffing in it. There are like tube-like or cylinder-like structures going down through it that actually would have been protective to the Black Prince, as well as the metal armor here shown underneath. The way that the sculptor has done this work, though, is that you can see the parallelism between this toupon and the wool embroidery material textile. Here, though, he has actually done it as metal armor in its own right, not as the cloth structure. But you see the parallelism in the design with the lions and the fleur-de-lis. This would have been the height of fashion expression. Not only was it practical in terms of armor, but it was sort of the something that would be deemed very beautiful, very luxurious, that the royal finger could show to others and just stand out. It should also be noted that in those medieval times, that the royalty would go into battle with their knights, and that was a great inspiration to the knights to have their leader fight side by side with them. And that was certainly part of the courage of being a leader and a knight. Here we see, zooming in on part of the body of the Black Prince sculpture. You notice these little medallions or rondels that'll show, again, the figure of the lion associated with the nobility and courage of the king. You notice the very fine, detailed work. They would have received the best artisans to work on this. You remember earlier I mentioned there was a tester of the canopy above the tomb effigy. Above that again was the tupon I mentioned, as well as the gauntlet, or like the special type of gloves the knight would wear, and certain other things that are called the achievements of the knight. But just under the canopy is a scene of the Trinity, of which here from a medieval manuscript, there's a depiction of the Black Prince. You see with the black armor, as well as the black ostrich feather of his crest, to may have been associated with his designation of Black Prince. He's praying to and showing adoration of the Trinity. You know, as the Trinity as the Holy Spirit here, but also the Master, Yeshua, the Son, and then the Father here, the three figures. Then this triune expression, there is the one cosmic unity. Traditionally, the king and royalty were to be knights. There would also be great leaders. There was also a sense to be highly pious and priest-like, and these are all part of that. And this is also part of the association of the epitaph of the Black Prince with the saying, talking about the mortality of the physical form, but here looking up is into the heavenly and into the immortal form that the ideal knight would live and be guided by, as expressed here. In a way, the sculpture has a very strong and beautiful effect on us. It's very enriching and ennobling. I recall from that history of medicine seminar I talked about, the person who presented at the end showed an image similar to this one of the Black Prince and played an inspiring piece of medieval music. And I remember rising up into the cosmic as I heard that expression. I had an experience of the cosmic consciousness where I sensed what everyone was experiencing throughout the medieval period, all their trials and struggles, all the great ideals, all the wisdom that was back of their actions, and this wondrous expression of the knight that we see before us. In a way, we're looking at ourselves, the divine within shining forth to us, its nobility of character, the following through of the virtues for the foundation for the expression of the cosmic sense. For when we come into that deeper maturity, we have not only perceived what a human being is, but we start to conceive it as being in the image of God, not so much in the physical forms, but in our capacities to act, to care, and to serve. Indeed, as part of the Black Prince's crest that I mentioned earlier, in the associated tradition with the Prince of Wales, was the Ich Dien, which in German means I serve. But also part of that was an expression of Humon, Ich Dien, which means courage, I serve, which could be a translation from the Flemish, which Black Prince was associated with through his mother and grandparents on his mother's side. Here too, then, we see how the knight is called to service, just as we as knights are called to service. In that regard, we see before us here the Knight of the Rose Cross, which was on the cover of a Rosicrucian forum in February 1983. It reminds me of being a Knight of the Rose Cross, that we have guidance of that in our weekly lessons, as well as in the Rosicrucian Code of Life and the Rosicrucian Creed for Happiness, both documents of which are profoundly permeated by the spirit of knighthood. For example, if I quote here from the Creed of Happiness for you, you'll get a sense of that. It reads, for example, that I shall remain poised and serene in every trial and face each emergency without fear. To me, each day will be one of kindly deeds and unselfish love. I shall obey those in authority and give loyalty to all whom loyalty is due. I shall be clean in body, action, and thought. I shall revere my God and have the utmost respect for the religious convictions of my fellows. Also, and so I will come to the end of each day with a satisfaction brought by service, serenity, kindness, and love. I shall go to my rest with the peace that comes from an untroubled mind and the memory of tasks well done. At this time, I will ask Karen to please post the resources for the presentation in the chat. It's a longer document, so here's a PDF that you can download. If you have any challenges downloading these resources and you wish them, you can always contact the department instruction. That's instructions@rosicrucian.org, instructions@rosicrucian.org to request it. Now I'll conclude, and I think we'll have some time for a few questions and answers. So we've considered the Knight of the Rose Cross in a way through the medieval masterwork of the Black Prince in Canterbury Cathedral. That inspired image, similar to the inspired image of the Knight of the Rose Cross before us, in a way helps enkindle the spirit of knighthood within us. That spirit of service, the application of the law of service, increased identification with the divine within and the great strength and courage that comes forward with it, and follows the Black Prince's motto to have courage and be magnanimous in service, that I serve. In this way, too, we've continued to consider how Rosicrucian laws and principles are applied for our self-mastery and our service to others. Thank you.